All right. Welcome to another episode of the Close Up on Orlando Magic HQ. I'm your host, Stephen Cameron. The Magic are 10-14. They're 14-10. I said that completely wrong. And they just lost Franz for 2 to 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Malik G, my guest, my friend, he joins the show. You guys have likely heard him on this show before. We get down and dirty into everything Orlando Magic on this episode. We talk, obviously, the Franz injury. We talk about Paolo's return. We talk about how Paolo and the Magic need to operate and how they can find success without Franz. And then we do a nice NBA Cup, Miami versus Orlando versus Miami. That game is going on today as you're listening to this podcast. So we get into all of that. It's a really fun conversation. We recorded this Monday night, December 8th. Pretty late at night. It was like, 11 p.m. Eastern when we recorded this. But it's a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I think you all will too. Before we get into that conversation, though, I just want to remind you all of a couple of things. All right. First off, please like and subscribe to this show. If you're watching it on YouTube, we'd really appreciate you guys to just hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. If you're listening to it on a podcast platform, give us a 5-star review. All those things help us reach more Magic fans. And then also, check out our Patreon program. We got that rolling. We got a great Discord community you get to join. And then we put out exclusive content just for you guys. We just got a new member. I really am psyched to have him join us. His name is Jimp. That's his name on the Discord. Shout out for joining today. Super psyched to have woken up and seen that you're a new member to our communities. Welcome, Jimp. If you're interested in joining, there's a couple of different tiers you can check out, and the link is in the show description. So that's going to do it. We're going to get right into this conversation with Malik, and let's go Magic. What's going on, Magic fans? Like I said in the intro, we got my main man, Malik Grady. You've heard him here on the show before. If you're active on NBA Twitter, you know who he is. He is the legend, the OG, Malik Grady. Welcome to the show. Once again, it's been a little while. We talked, I think, during preseason. We had our last episode together, and now that we have a good amount of games, the Magic have played 24 games now, so we got some good data to talk about. We also have some sad news and happy news to talk about at the same time. But before we get into that, how you doing, sir? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing good. It's always a pleasure to talk with my great friend, Steven, a loving man who puts a lot of his own time into the Magic.
Bro. Come on.
Just good stuff, my man.
It's good to have you, man. I love chopping it up with you. We're gonna have a good time tonight talking Magic basketball. So, okay, just to set the table, the Magic have played 24 games. They are currently 14-10, fifth in the Eastern Conference. We are recording this December 8th, so games have started to wrap up. I believe those standings are still accurate. They could be off by a little bit. So that's kind of where they're at. They are a top 10 offense or defense. They've slipped a little bit on offense. They're about 12th in offensive rating. But overall, this season has been going much better after the initial 1-4 start. I feel like every podcast I start with, I always mentioning that 1-4 start. A little bit of context: in the last 6 games, they've gone 4-2. Unfortunately, yesterday in the matinee game versus the New York Knicks in New York, Franz Wagner goes down with a major injury. What seems like a major injury. And, I had to rewatch the play today. All right. And as I'm preparing for this podcast, I needed to get ready. They're on a fast break. Anthony Black has the ball. He throws it up to Franz for a lob. Franz grabs it, but the New York defender, Huck Porty, I think that's his name, goes up from behind from a block. They kind of make midair contact, come down, land kind of awkwardly on each other, and Franz goes down, grabbing his knee, obviously in pain, kind of agonizing over what's going on. So Huck Porty goes over to Franz to check on him pretty quickly to see, how he's doing, if he's okay. Franz is obviously in a lot of pain. Huck Porty, in my opinion, when I was watching it, it didn't seem like a dirty play, and he seemed very visibly concerned over Franz after it happened. Jalen Suggs actually went over to him right away and, pat him on the back, said, it's okay. You're okay. And then, he eventually gave them space and whatnot. But yeah, we all thought the worst. He had to get helped off the court by Mo Wagner and Jace Richardson, walked him back to the locker room, and we were just in unknown for a while. The whole game felt off. All Magic fans were just online. All we could talk about was Franz and what's going on. We weren't even really talking about the game much at that point. Magic did lose that game. They lost that game 100 to 106. So at least they kept it somewhat close and respectable after all that. Comes out today on December 8th in the afternoon. Late in the afternoon.
Felt late.
That Franz, so they did an initial x-ray at the Madison Square Garden. They had an x-ray machine there. Most arenas, I don't believe, have MRI machines, but like the practice facilities next to them, the training facilities, have them right there. And from my understanding, unless it's like really, really bad, most of the time they wait to do the MRIs until they get back. They can get the player back home. And that's what they did. They gave Franz the MRI today. And it came back that he just has a high ankle sprain. There's no structural damage. Shams reported, a 2 to 4 week timeline for recovery. I did some quick Googling and just thinking on how these types of things get reported in the past. I can't say every single time, but I feel like most of the time when it's like a grade 2 or worse, we hear that reporting, that language from Shams, and we didn't hear that. And then when you look at the recovery timeline, 2 to 4 weeks, that matches up with what I was reading about online with a grade 1 ankle sprain, which is the least severe of the high ankle sprains. So I think we all are just feeling like a breath of release that we escaped something that could have been really bad, at least the way it all looked on TV. And if you watch the replays, we all thought, there was people thinking season ending injury. There was people thinking he could be out multiple months. And he potentially could be back within a month, which is pretty awesome. He has a potential timeline to still play in the Germany game, I think on January 12th. I think that is the timeline for that. Don't quote me on that exact day, but it's around there. So Malik, I'm going to pass it to you, man. We kind of know the news. How are you feeling about everything? What were your thoughts going down during this process? And how are you analyzing it?
Yeah, obviously, the biggest thing is relief. I don't think that high ankle sprain was really among my thoughts as we were awaiting this news. Like, you're kind of thinking the worst, or you're thinking patella fracture, or I think there was one gentleman online who works with medical, and so he was talking about a tibial, this and that. So I was thinking about ligaments, that kind of thing. So to have a high ankle sprain, it almost seems so mundane compared to a young man, falling out of the air from 4 feet and landing on his leg and writhing in pain and having to comfort the other player, that kind of thing. And it's always funny how we experience these things now on social media, where you can get every angle and every media thing immediately. And if you're trying to avoid that, you can, but it takes some doing. And obviously there's quickly Google doctors, there's real doctors, there's people who used to date a doctor, kind of like me, that are all giving their opinions, that kind of thing. So it's just a really kind of surreal experience. And then I actually tweeted, because Shams talked about, 2 to 4 weeks. I'm like, oh, bro, you don't know the magic. 2 to 4 weeks, there's no way. However, that's kind of tongue in cheek. 4 weeks is something, it sounds possible with, when you look at everything considered, like you said, not hearing certain buzzwords or months. It seems maybe a little ambitious, knowing the magic in the past. And I think in different circumstances, if we weren't playing in Germany, I could see them having Franz fully healthy and then letting him kind of ease back in, just to be safer than safe. But I'm not saying they would push it, but I think I could see them targeting that time period and saying, hey, if everything's fine, if you're pain-free, that's where we want to go. If there's a setback or something is weird, or if it's taking longer, fine. But we'd like to put that out there, because that's a once in a lifetime thing to be able to, because obviously we're hoping, that Franz Wagner is back as well. And I think, I don't know if it was, fate or what have you, but it was encouraging for me that his brother was one of the ones carrying him off, the guy who's coming back from injury, because, he's obviously had an ACL himself. So you wouldn't think that he would be allowed to carry another person if he wasn't close. So that, I don't know, it's just kind of an ancillary thing that felt good. And hopefully those guys will be back in that beginning part of January.
I want to go back to timeline for a second, because you and I, over the years, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, we've we track a lot of these injuries that happen with the Magic,
Yeah.
and we do our best to like Google doctor it and figure out our own timelines because the whole NBA has essentially moved away outside of like the Warriors from giving timelines. Like the Warriors are one of the few teams that still will actually give timelines and like detailed updates on recovery processes, but very few teams do nowadays. And you and I have tracked a lot of these things. And in the past, particularly like we're all scarred from the Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz types of injuries where it's taken them forever to get back, and they're extremely cautious with those guys. But I feel like in the last year or two, we have figured out a timeline that makes sense for the injury, and it's typically on the back end of that timeline. So I don't feel like they're actually holding out players nearly as long as they used to. They have a different medical staff now. I do still think they're still cautious with them and not rushing them. But like Paolo, groin injury, I think that was like a 3 to 4 week timeline. He came back in about
10 games.
Came back in about 4 weeks. So it was like on the longer side of that, right? So they just don't rush players through the process. But I don't feel like I would be very shocked if he was out for 6 weeks. Like that would just feel really wrong to me. You know, would I be surprised if it hit 5? No, but I think, especially if you look at how Franz has recovered in the past from injuries, like granted, we don't know the severity of his oblique injury versus Paolo's oblique injury. We did learn that it wasn't as bad, but he came back significantly faster than Paolo did. And then not this summer, but the summer before that during international play when Franz was playing for Germany, I think he had another high ankle sprain and he came back within a couple of weeks, like very quickly, and was playing back for Team Germany.
Big minutes
so
and everything,
I think like I wouldn't be surprised if it takes the full 4 weeks, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in like 3 either, you know?
Well, and here's the thing. If we're going exactly 4 weeks from the injury, the day of obviously was December 7th. Exactly 4 weeks from December 7th would be January 4th. So you give you another week and that kind of thing before the Germany game, that kind of thing. So we're actually in a nice window for Franz to take a little break. Take a load off, just relax a little bit, and we're going to Germany. You know, start packing. You know, get
Call your friends.
List for what you're going to be shopping for. Get your list of what beers you're going to present to your colleagues, and go from there. You know, that's best case scenario. And get some popcorn because you're going to be able to watch your brother. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying.
Totally.
So enjoy yourself. Have the best seat in the house. You know, that's the best case scenario.
Totally.
Kind of choosing to take it. But jokes aside, like I said, 4 weeks is that beginning part of January, and you know we'll see how it goes. But like I said, it was very scary. I mean, especially for me. I mean, not especially, but the way I experienced it. A lot of us, you know, we have British fans. We have like you're on the West Coast. We all time shift and watch things differently and that kind of thing. And for me, because it was an early game and I had kids around, I was watching, but then I had to go and I came back. So I came back to certain like alerts of this injury, and I was like, oh, what happened? I didn't even know the outcome of the game yet. So I'm trying to watch carefully so I don't see certain things because I don't want to be traumatized or whatever. Anyway, long story short, it's just interesting how things go. Like you said, we've been through this a lot. Jonathan Isaac, first or second injury where he got hurt and then came back, and then we was in the bubble, got hurt. That's the most problematic, scary one for me. I think at the very least we're light years away from that, where it seemed where they were trying to figure things out on the fly. It's, in my opinion, this definitely feels more streamlined with this medical staff. It seems like they're muscular and feel like they know what they're doing. There's still the element of, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, a lot of things are up to fate or up to how guys respond. But I think we all, or some of us, feel more confident nowadays. We think this can be a little bit of a longer timeline, and just excited to see how they work without him. And obviously, like we said, we're going to talk about Paolo's return. It's kind of at an interesting time. Some would say bad luck time, but there are some silver linings possibly for how Magic might proceed, because obviously we're looking towards long-term goals.
Yeah, and this is a perfect time to start talking about Paolo. He's been back now for 2 games after missing 10. Last night, or yesterday afternoon, for me it was the morning, versus the Knicks, he played 24 minutes. He's on a minute restriction. I believe the game before he played about 20 minutes.
20, yeah.
And he's still finding himself. He has come back into the offense, and he hasn't really inserted himself and forced himself into like that alpha mode, like, let's take over, let's just score a bunch of points, get to the line. He's been fairly conservative with his approach so far. I think he's trying to play within the flow that has been created in the last 10 games and the games leading up to that before he went out with his injury, when the Magic, I think, went 6-2 after that initial start. And, he's finding his pace again. And that's expected when you miss a handful of weeks, right? Like, it's expected that you're going to be rusty for a few games. I think we all kind of anticipated it. But now the pressure really is on him to start ramping up much, much faster, right? If it was going to take 4 games, we needed to take 3, because with Franz out, the NBA Cup quarterfinals coming up on Tuesday, the day you guys are listening to this podcast. They host the Miami Heat. We need Paolo. Like, it's really important that this team can get him and some of the other players that have been struggling a little bit recently. Tristan da Silva has been a little bit off. Bane's been a little bit off the last handful of games too. We need this team to find themselves again, because I know Paolo has been the target of a lot of criticism recently. Can the offense flow with Paolo? He's a little bit of a ball stopper. He's turnover prone. He's a little bit slower of a player decision maker than Franz. And there's been all these narratives across local and national media about Paolo and his fit with the Magic recently. I mean, I just heard a podcast on Game Theory today where they were using Paolo as a trade for Giannis because they, things like that have been happening because Paolo has missed time. And, during that time, the Magic have won games, not like they haven't won games with Paolo. So it's time for him to kind of get back and kind of be that alpha, that leader that this team needs on the court and be the best player on the court. But he's going to need his teammates to do that. I have a lot of thoughts on why I think this will work, but I want to send it to you before I get into it and hear your thoughts just about Paolo coming back and kind of what needs to happen in your perspective for this team to continue to find, forward momentum and stay competitive, climbing the Eastern Conference ladder.
Right. Well, a couple of things is obviously when you talk about Paolo coming back, first thing comes to mind is when he came back last year after such a long instance. And you already heard that this was different for him. It wasn't like he couldn't do anything. He didn't lose all of the conditioning that he lost last year. It was more, like a 10-game thing where he was anxious to get back, but he feels really good. And you watch him, he looks good. Like the way he's moving, he's not the same old Paolo because he's thinking, he's trying to fit himself in. But he looks good physically. It doesn't look like, oh my God, this isn't the same dude. What the hell has happened? On the minutes restriction, you only see certain things, but it looks like just like when Jalen was playing, he's kind of chomping at the bit. Now, he's not like Jalen. Jalen comes out, he's like, oh, if I have 5 minutes, I'm going to leave my heart on the floor. There's going to be rug burns. There's going to be bleeding. There's going to be foaming at the mouth. I'm going to mouth off of the ref. That's not Paolo. And Paolo also, he hears everything too. I mean, these young men, they're eternally online. They have people telling them there's some filtering going on. So he hears the criticism and in some ways he welcomes it because as a number 1 pick, as a Jordan athlete, all those type of things, pressure is kind of a privilege, and these guys kind of welcome that. And it's kind of their mantra to kind of take those things and turn it into something special. Playing wise, one thing I do like coming back. He seems very confident in going straight up when he's open for 3. He hasn't had in the last couple of years that many catch and shoot opportunities from 3, but he's already in these first 2 games had a number of them because guys have been drawing defenses and kick it to him. And in the past, he would have gotten in let me do a jab step and think about it. It's like, bro, just shoot it. And he's done that, and the shot has looked pretty good. He's not just nailing all of them and all, but he's looked pretty good. And then in terms of, the coexistence with Bane and Black's kind of emergence was kind of after he left as well. So I'm really just looking forward to seeing how he responds because there's been a lot of criticism. Like you said, there's been scoffing and saying, oh man, is the better player and what this, that, and the other. And then there's been some evidence necessarily saying, oh, while they're playing better here, that kind of thing. But I really want to just savor being able to kvetch about which one of our 6'10" young stars is killing it when they're getting over 20 points a game. And this guy, man, I wish this guy who's, not quite a freak of nature, but pretty close, 6'10", 250, these moves. I wish he would use that better. Once again, it goes back to with Boston all those years with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and the fit didn't work, and people were always trying to trade one guy or trade the other. And there were times it looked clunky as hell, and one or the other, we'd be like, this guy's ball hogging, and this guy, they're just taking turns, and there's no flow and stuff. But over time, they won the championship, and they both showed things. We're a quarter into the season, and we have brand new staff where you've seen real improvement from guys and those kind of things happening. So I'm looking forward, like today, for when you watch everything, watching the Magic in Miami in a real stakes game in December, where there's some adversity on both sides, where Tyler Harrell's coming back, but he's maybe limited, but he kind of has that Trae Young thing going on, where it's like, hey, is the team better off without you? Same thing with Paolo. He's coming back, and Franz is out, and there's that thing going on. One thing that a caveat I have is that he's having to come back from injury. He has the minutes restriction. He's not quite going to be himself. So when there's some faltering, there's going to be a little bit unfair criticism from that.
Sure.
But everything else is just kind of, it's fun to have these storylines this early in the season for a young team that has, 4 legitimate stars and some guys, like I said, off the bench that, again, we get to gripe that we want more playing time for this guy, that kind of thing. So long story short, I'm excited to see what Paolo has. I think there will be some growing pains. There will be some more criticism, but there also will be some moments where he's just drawing foul after foul after foul, and the Magic are playing better because they're in the bonus, like in the first 5 minutes of every quarter. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what he does.
I think for me, when I'm like, okay, we're losing Franz, he was a big part of what we do, but how does Paolo fill in there? And I just think about the DNA of this team right now, right? They are a team that is trying to get out and fast and transition quickly off of steals, off of misses. And when they are running, Paolo is a very good transition player, right? I believe before he went out, I did a podcast with Josh Cohen, and at that time, he was a top 10 finisher and transition. He is also a good passer when it's in transition. It's different when it slows down, but he's a good, smart passer in transition too. So I'm really not worried about any fall off with Paolo versus Franz, but Paolo or Franz when it comes to transition offense. I think we're probably not going to see too much change there because he was already good there. He's been good in transition since like college. And he's only improved as a finisher. Like I said, he was top 10 in the league as a transition finisher before he went down for injury. So I think there we're good. Where Paolo often gets in trouble is when things slow down in the half court, because we know like he does like to play a little bit slower in half court certain times during the game. And, he gets 2 or 3 defenders on him, or his decision making cannot be as snappy as it needs to be in half court play. I think both of Franz and Paolo are gifted passers. I think Paolo is probably the more skilled passer. Like he can make harder passes, but I think where he gets in trouble is he doesn't always make the right pass. He can make harder passes, but he doesn't always make the right pass or pass early enough within a set. And that's where
more sometimes.
Yeah, that's where he if he doesn't make the decision fast enough, that's where sometimes he gets trapped and then has like 2 or 3 guys on him and has to, take a poorly contested 3 or try and drive himself to the basket and get some contact, or he makes a pass and has a turnover. Like he's absolutely more prone to those situations than Franz is. And that's where he needs to improve. And he was already starting to show signs of improvement during that before he went down. So he wasn't flawless there. He definitely still had moments. We all were banging our heads on the table, like hoping he would make better decisions, but he was making some progress there. So I'm looking forward to, now that the pressure is on him, let's see how that continues to develop. I do think there's going to be some growing pains there because he is a flawed player, just like many. But I think that's where we're going to see that's where we want to see the most improvement, and where I think a lot of my questions on how this will flow is when things slow down a little bit more, right? Can he get into the mindset of making quicker decisions and passing sooner? And I think we can, because one is I think he's going to have the ball plenty, but I don't think he's going to have the ball nearly as much in his hands as he did last year when he first came back from injury and Franz was still out, because Jalen Suggs is healthy and he's playing very well right now. So that's another ball handler that he has, that this team has to utilize. Anthony Black is being staggered a lot with the starters right now because he is just on a tear. And Anthony Black is really excelling at driving to the basket and either finishing or kicking it out to someone else.
And just being a threat. Yeah.
And so that's just another opportunity for the ball for keep moving, let Paolo play a little bit more off ball. He also has Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane, you've done the research. He's played a lot of point guard. The ball is in his hands a lot. Desmond and Paolo, before the injury, they were in a lot of pick and roll together. And like every single time they were in a pick and roll, one of them had a good shot opportunity. It wouldn't always go in, but they had a good look through that. So the tools are different that Paolo has to work with now as coming back without his running mate in Franz. And so, yes, is there going to be some growing pains? I'm sure there are, but I am not one of those people that follow this team and cover this team that think the floor is going to fall off, that Franz is not there, right? Is there going to be issues? Sure. Were there issues when Paolo went out? Absolutely. There was definitely games where Franz did not have it and Bane had to save this team, right? Or Suggs had to go off. Like those 37-point games that Bane had back-to-back, Franz didn't exactly play great during those games. So I think, and that's not a knack on Franz, that's just basketball, right? So I think why I say all that to say, I'm optimistic that it's going to be okay. I'm optimistic that Paolo in a couple more games, hopefully today during the cup game versus the Miami Heat, will find himself, and that things will start clicking pretty quickly for this Magic roster without Franz, and that they can find some momentum. Their identity shouldn't shift too much. Obviously, like the big thing is, I've only been talking offense. Defensively, Franz and Paolo are two different defenders. Franz is a very good wing defender, and on the perimeter, he is excellent there. Where Paolo can do some of that, but he has turned a little bit more into like a paint and rim protector to an extent this year in some ways, and has played a little bit more in that space. He can handle some one-on-ones here and there for sure, but like there's differences between Paolo being, hey, he's not a bad defender. He's like, above average, average to above average, where Franz is like an elite wing defender. So it's like, there's going to be some pains there. So maybe that's where they stagger Black even harder with the starters to be able to like pick up some of those wings. Tristan da Silva is going to need to pick up some paces around there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at and where I stand like optimistically, specifically with Paulo's role with the Magic right now.
And I think, it's funny, once again, a privilege. We get to talk all this time and we've only just kind of barely touched on Desmond Bane, who, when Paolo went out, those 10 games he was out, Bane was starting to try to find himself, but you could tell he was doing what Paolo has done this first couple of games, trying to pick his spots and not step on toes and kind of do this and the other. But in this 10 games, he really found himself. And the aspects of his game that we didn't necessarily realize, we knew he was a shooter, we knew he could play both guard positions, but the instigator, the kind of fire and stuff. I mean, one thing, the other thing that has come out, from yesterday's game, obviously Franz's injury was the most watched kind of video, but the second most watched video was Desmond Bane and the activity that he got
$5,000 for throwing a ball at OG Anunoby.
Or, he was trying to keep possession by throwing the ball off a player out of bounds. However, he was in bounds and said player was on his knees under the basket. And he just beamed the guy and then was like, what? What's the problem? It's just hilarious.
The funniest part, though, before you go on, the funniest part about that situation, dude, was like, it's like, one, it's just obnoxious. And two, it's like, afterwards, like when they're reviewing the play, they turn the camera to Bane and OG, who are standing next to each other, and they are both laughing about it. Like OG obviously was not pissed off about it. It was like he was annoyed at first, but then they the two of them started laughing and joking about it, which was just hilarious.
I don't know if people remember. There's a movie called Menace to Society, and there was a really out of pocket character who basically shot this guy in a convenience store and then stole the surveillance tape, and he and his buddies are watching it as he does some dastardly things. That's what it felt like. I was playing for my wife and I'm laughing and she's kind of just horrified, like, he shouldn't do that. This seems wrong. And I was like, yes, that's true. This is not good behavior. My son is watching it and stuff, but it's hilarious. There's actually a recent video kind of compiled his over the years, rage baiting stuff, going against KD, LeBron,
Steph.
like everybody just getting people's face and stuff. And another one where he just throws the ball at somebody, just beating them.
Well, this isn't the first time. He volleyball spiked the ball against someone earlier this year, a handful of games. I can't remember what team that was, but that was funny too.
It's just beautiful to have that kind of personality.
But back to your point of him like being a real good player.
He's being himself now. Like, it's not like, oh, I wonder, hey guys, I don't want to tip on toes. Like, he's being the a-hole, but also lovable a-hole because he's yours. Like, now I'm more and more wanting Moritz to come back because I can't wait till we have a big man instigator and a little man instigator who just get under people's skin and just annoy them, and having that kind of personality. We were already not fun to play against. Like, we're going to be a lot less fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing Paolo and Bane have time together to gel, because I think Franz and Bane had that time to gel in this stretch where Paolo was out, because I think eventually the 4 stars will find their roles and meld and stagger and that kind of thing. But to expect them to do it when all of them had their full minutes is tough. So it's actually, we didn't want it, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise to say, hey, listen, we'll take Paolo out. You guys, talk amongst yourselves, get your chemistry going and stuff. So, okay, now, hey, Franz, you come out and you guys go in. Now you have time. There's room to breathe. Everyone gets their time at the mic. One gets their turn to be at the bar, serving a little bit kind of stuff. So, again, one of the things that I'm excited about, but even with Bane not hitting his shots as much as we want, he's shown himself to be a real star. And we talked about, in terms of some of the minutes positionally, he's played about 2/3 of his minutes at the 2 and about 1/3 of his minutes at the 1 in this first quarter of the season. And he's been equally efficient in both. When you look at his kind of on-off numbers, they're identical for the 2 and the 3. I mean, 1 and the 2. Usually some guy will be great at 1 and bad at the other when you start saying, oh man, he needs to play this, then the other. Another thing about positionally, Paolo has played almost all of his minutes at the 4 so far this year. So this is an opportunity for him to maybe get some minutes at the 3, which has some negatives, but there's a lot of positives, because as much of a mismatch as he is at the 4, he is an absolute mismatch offensively at the 3. And no one can handle him there. Just the same way when LeBron was at the height of his athletic powers, when he was playing on the wing, it was like, what is going on? This 250-pound person is coming me from the outside on attacking a closeout or on the break. It's kind of scary. So to have him next to another 4 where we've seen, Penda emerge, so that's some real options to have some different lineups where we can attack and have some mismatches, have some real personality. So again, that's the things I'm excited to see. We know the negatives. People talking about, oh, is he a ball stopper? Is that some of that's going on? Paolo's built for the playoffs. Like with the playoffs, everything slows down and you get tougher shots.
Cat just had a cameo.
Hello. Where you can't do what you want to do. Paolo's already taken those tough shots in the regular season. We want him to get more easy shots on the break and that kind of thing in the regular season. But in the playoffs, his game is kind of built for that.
He's a playoff riser too.
Is just, and he's proven it. So far he's proven it in the playoffs and stuff. We want him to get on the break. There are times we've seen him get the ball, and wait for the ball, in the backcourt. And it's like, no, just get down the court. If you have it, go, but don't wait for somebody else, that kind of thing. And I think he's going to learn that. These first couple of years, he's learned to kind of say, hey, sometimes I have to do everything. We've all seen the screenshots where he's driving the lane and literally 3 and 4 guys are around him. And sometimes he's actually getting fouled or getting a shot. You don't have to do that. When you have to, the end of a shot clock, or they've tilted the defense, fine, do it then. But Paolo, just swing the ball and get it back. And I think he will learn that he doesn't have to do so much. And a guy like Bane, playing as well as he's been playing at times, I think that's going to show him. So I'm just excited, especially in Jalen Suggs. We haven't talked about him. So again, overall, I'm excited to see what happens, even though there will be growing pains. I think mostly because of the minutes restriction and having to get back in the rhythm.
Yeah, and it's like this team's in a different spot. Like, the team is mostly healthy. Yes, they're still missing both Wagner brothers now, but Jalen Suggs is healthy, playing really well. Desmond Bane is healthy.
More healthy than he was last year.
Goga's playing really well right now. He's had a really nice stretch of games recently. There was a little bit earlier where he was struggling a little bit, but like the last handful of games have been really good for Goga. Wendell Carter is playing good basketball right now. And it's like,
knock on wood, I love him being healthy.
This team is in a different rhythm. They have a different offensive system. Guys are trusting each other on the court. And I think that's going to this is going to be a good thing it's not a good thing to lose your second best player or, your
Yeah.
first best player, however you guys want to look at it. I don't really care who you think is the best. But, when you lose one of the top players on the team, that's never a good thing. But this could be another blessing in disguise where it's like Paolo went out, certain guys got to find their flow a little bit more. Franz going out is going to allow Paolo and the team to find their flow within each other. Okay, cool. Get Franz back in early January, and, this team will then find their flow all together. So that, me and you, like, we're always looking at things from the optimistic point of view. And that is just kind of like how I'm going to continue to choose to analyze this situation that the Magic are in right now. Speaking of which, they have a really big game tomorrow. Or today, actually, sorry. I'm saying tomorrow because we're recording on Monday. But today, Tuesday, December 9th, they play the Miami Heat in the quarterfinals for the Emirates NBA Cup.
So that 5 times.
How you feeling going into this Emirates Cup? Without Franz, do you care about the cup? Like, let's just talk some NBA Cup for a moment.
I definitely care. I think that Miami will be. I mean, I haven't not looking at the odds. I can look at what they actually are, but I think that Miami should be a slight favorite, all things considered, when you lose Franz, when Paolo is not quite up to speed and minutes type of thing. But I'm excited the opportunity.
Totally.
It's
Home
tough
crowd.
to beat a team 3 times, 4 times. Now we've played them a number of times. We actually just played them. So Miami's offense, which has basically eliminated screen rolls and getting screens, that kind of thing. And each player at any time attacks whoever's in front of them. They find the mismatch. And traditionally and lately, teams have screened to try to get the mismatches they want. Whereas now with Miami, what they do every time down is each player can drive at whoever they want to drive at. So if you see a mismatch, they're like, we don't need to switch. I'm going at you. You're like, wait, you're only the second or third best player. That I don't care. They just go at guys, and it's been working because everybody's always attacking closeouts. They've had great offense. Now the Magic were able to kind of slow them down and grind things to a halt when they played him last, and kind of put him in the blender a little bit. We'll see what Miami adjustments will make. That's going to be tough. We're obviously having to play them without Franz, who was kind of key to that defense. But I'm excited to see what we come up with tonight, because I think the players are very excited. You can say what you want. Like, we're fired up. And this is a team that in the past has been a rival for some of us old Magic fans. And it's a matchup that we want to be a rivalry again, in that they've beaten us quite a bit over the last 10, 15 years. We want to get back to where it's equal footing, or really where we're on top. Not all on top.
Yep.
So this is another opportunity, national TV, where there are stakes and where you have some adversity. So if you win, you're going to get even more credit. So I'm very much looking forward to the matchups are interesting. I also want to see, like I said, if Hero is back, he's a guy you can attack. It's tough to have somebody come back who's not a great defender, but needs to be on the ball out. Hopefully that stumbles them a little bit. So it's kind of intriguing. We also have some young players that are playing more, that have more upside than you would think. Jace Richardson playing in the first quarter more. Gasp. Tyus Jones actually showing a pulse, not looking at his most Corey Joseph, shall we say. So it's just been nice to see something. So I'm very excited, even though, like I said, I think this is a game where it's an uphill battle. But those are the games that are the most fun, when you win when maybe you weren't supposed to, even though you're at home. So it's not like you're like crying poor mouth. It's just, it's tough to lose Franz and have that emotional, that kind of thing. But sometimes when a guy goes out, those first couple games, that emotional, hey guys, we're going to do it for so-and-so, for freedom.
Totally.
There's a whole Braveheart type of thing going on. So hopefully we'll get some of that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you say. I also think about this Magic team. The first year they didn't make the quarterfinals. The second year they made it, but they didn't have home court. They lost in Milwaukee versus the Bucks. Jalen Suggs went crazy in that game.
It wasn't somebody hurt then too?
I think Paolo was already out at that point.
Yeah. So yeah.
And then this actually, I think Franz was out too at that point. I think both of them were out. I think that might have been like Jalen Suggs' first game by himself.
We were in a tough spot. I remember.
Yeah,
it was like,
it was not great.
We made it, and now this happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. It's nice to see them progress, to have home court this time. I've gone to every year. I've gone to a tournament play, a group play game. This year I didn't get to go to one.
Okay, gotcha.
But I've gone to 2 so far, and the atmospheres are just so fun. Like that arena tomorrow is going to be intense. And
we actually have a cool court, unlike some teams.
Home court with a lot of Miami fans are going to be in there, but home court still. And then I want to see them advance. I look back the last couple NBA Cup winners, and I don't really care that they won.
Yeah.
It definitely has
If we
not
won, we would care.
earned that prestigious proudness that we've won it.
Mhm.
But right now, in the moment, I want to kick everyone's ass, and I can't wait to see the Magic hopefully go win a trophy in Vegas. And this is like their best year so far to potentially have that chance. But today is like step one in making that happen, right? They have to come out right. Like you said, use Franz as a motivator to come out and just, take charge of this game. The Magic have come out a little slow-footed in the last couple of games, and I'd like to see that not happen. Right. I don't want to see you guys trailing from behind. Have a fast start and get after it right away. That's kind of where my thought process is on it. And then, depending on how they do, there's going to be a couple games that get filled in. And then on December 18th, I'm just kind of skipping ahead past this cup now at the moment. They have a 4-game road trip, which is going to be pretty big for them, right? Because again, they're probably going to be without Franz for this. And they're going to go out west to Denver, which is going to be a hard game. Then they get a little bit of a break to the Utah Jazz, and then they have a back-to-back versus Golden State to Portland. Not the craziest travel in the world. It's like a 2-hour flight, not too bad. The worst part about this road trip, I'm just going to be honest, Malik, is they play Portland on December 3rd. Okay? I live in Portland now. I just moved here this past summer from Golden State. All right, from the Bay.
But that's when you're coming to Orlando.
I'm going to be flying to Orlando on the 22nd. So I can't even see them in my current home city. Luckily, I'll be in town and I'll get to watch them in Kia Center the next week. But I'm just so bummed. I was really looking forward to seeing them at Moda Center.
It's
the
a
Blazer
fun arena
fans
too.
are
Isn't that
awesome.
Portland Arena fun?
Yeah, Blazer fans are awesome out here. The Moda Center is an older arena, but it's a good arena. Good food. It's a good time at Moda Center. I've gone to a couple of games there, not this year, but in years past. I'll be at some probably later this month or into 2026. I'll definitely go to a couple of games. But I'm disappointed. Damn it! I wanted to see the Magic in Portland, and I can't. But heck, Kia Center is a great alternative, so I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, and a lot of us, just timing wise, have been kind of looking at the calendar, trying to see when the best time or the most logical possible time for Moritz Wagner to come back. That game, after the Blazers, 3 games after that day after Christmas, the 26th.
Yeah,
a lot of us are kind of targeting that as the game. Hey, listen, after a road trip, a couple of days where you actually might get a practice in, or at least get a nice walkthrough in that Christmas time. That's a place where maybe Moritz can play. If not, then maybe that next game, although you don't want to toss him into the fire against the Nuggets. I'm excited to see what happens there. It's fun to have this time of year be a little exciting because usually in the early part of December, before the Cup, you're kind of going on fumes, hoping to get to those, the Christmas games. Who's playing the Christmas games? It's all about football and that kind of thing. And now it's still about football, but the Cup gives you a little thing to kind of, hey, these are a little more competitive and these guys play and that kind of stuff. And the teams that are in it, you actually have something to kind of get excited about, rib yourself a little bit. For those of us who are degenerate gamblers, there's more of a reason. It's no, I have to bet. It's a big deal. That kind of stuff is going on. So I'm excited about that. But that's a bummer, dude, that you can't go to the game.
No, getting ripped off here.
Where you need a Patreon benefactor, somebody's like, hey, listen, stay back. We'll pay for your wife and kids to go on first class. You stay back. We'll take you to Blazers game and we'll get you on the private jet back to your family in Orlando. Would you like to do that, sir?
If any of our Patreon subscribers have private jets, give me a call. All right, I'd like to borrow it for a day.
That's a hell of a tier. No, that's a different tier, guys.
Big tier. Man, Malik, I really appreciate you jumping on the show tonight and talking some Magic basketball. Today is going to be a fun game.
Yeah. You got me fired up, man.
I can't wait to watch the Magic versus the Heat. And I also just can't wait to watch this Magic team evolve with Paolo. Paolo's a hell of a player. He's super fun to watch for me. And it'll be fun to just kind of see him get his confidence back and start being the dominant force that he is. This Magic, they're in it. This conference is open and they have every opportunity to continue to just take ownership. They're still a good team even without Franz. So let's get this W today. Malik, let all the people know where they can find you. And again, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, definitely do. It's a privilege. As always, we're on opposite coasts, but it's been great to have that friendship. You can find me on Twitter, Malik G. I definitely love engagement. Talk a lot about, Gator basketball, a lot of Magic basketball. That's the kind of main things I talk about. And just looking forward to seeing Jace Richardson play meaningful minutes in a game that means something, guys. It's happening all around us.
It's going to be
looking
great.
forward to seeing you guys online.
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us, Magic fans. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe to this. Check out our Patreon program. Again, shout out to Jimp, who just joined. He's our newest Patreon subscriber. We're excited to have you. And yeah, tune in for the next episode, and we'll see you soon. Go Magic.